The Las Vegas Raiders rookies are officially reporting to training camp, and we got some massive news coming out on the first day of Raiders officially reporting to camp. That is that second round pick wide receiver Jack Bech has officially signed his contract. And I'm very, very excited about what this means for the Raiders as we kind of go forward. If you guys had not known, Jack Bech was basically unsigned, and he wasn't the only second round pick out of this last draft class that was unsigned. 30 of the 32 draft picks were unsigned, and one of them even actually held out of training camp. The Chargers second round pick, wide receiver Trey Harris, basically held out the first day or two of training camp, and he officially signed this morning as well. And we're starting to see every single other second round pick kind of start signing their contracts. But these guys were all basically holding out for more guaranteed money. And it kind of worked out for them, right? From the reports, it seems like guys are getting like 85 to 95%, if not all of their value of that contract. They're basically getting it guaranteed. But wide receiver Jack Bech has officially signed. Jordan Schultz is putting it out there saying that the Raiders and wide receiver Jack Bech, the 50th overall pick out of TCU, have agreed to terms on his rookie contract per sources. So at this point, there's nothing to worry about as we kind of go forward. Not that it was a huge worry, but I talked about this yesterday while I was live with Graphic, and we talked about this a little bit. There was a chance that Jack Bech would hold out the same way Trey Harris held out for the Chargers. Right, these agents obviously all got together and they're telling these rookies to hold out. It's going to benefit future rookies, and these guys are the guys that had to kind of take one for the team. And we talked about how this could potentially impact Jack Bech and the development. Right, missing any days of training camp is huge. Tyree Wilson in his rookie year did not, he was not part of the Raiders training camp, and he's talked about it multiple times how it kind of impacted him and his career. Right, not having that first year. As you kind of come in, training camp is completely different. It's not college, right? Now it's professional. And missing time really does have a huge impact. And another thing is today the rookies reported. In about 5 days, the veterans will report as well. Right? So on the 22nd is when the veterans will report. This is going to let these guys actually get in there and kind of get that head start and have those 5 days before the veterans. So, it's just something to kind of keep in mind. Jack Bech is officially signed. And I'm excited as hell for this because I don't think people recognize, Jack Bech and even Dante Thornton Jr. to a tune. Both of these guys, they weren't like, 1,500-yard wide receivers over the course of their careers. In fact, Jack Bech and Dante Thornton really weren't that good statistically. But from a tape perspective, it's a little bit different. And with Jack Bech specifically, when this guy went to the Senior Bowl, he had a really, really, really good Senior Bowl. In fact, I would make the argument if Jack Bech did not go to the Senior Bowl, he would not have been a second round pick. I think Jack Bech would have probably been a third or a fourth round pick. But when he went to the Senior Bowl, the guy had a phenomenal Senior Bowl, and he really shot up the draft boards. And the Raiders obviously felt comfortable taking him with the 58th overall pick. And the upside, we don't really know what this guy could develop into. Right? When you draft certain wide receivers, you kind of know what you're going to get out of them. With Bech, we don't really know because, this guy was kind of a late developer, but he really didn't have a huge role with TCU either. Same thing with Dante Thornton. Not that he didn't have a huge role, but his role was kind of limited at Tennessee. And their offense is kind of weird as well. But both of the receivers the Raiders have right now, there's so much potential and there's so much upside. And I'm really, really, really excited to see what these guys can kind of develop into as we kind of go forward. Do keep in mind, there's not a ton of reports that are coming out. Rookies are reporting today, but that doesn't mean they're putting pads on. Doesn't mean they're going to start hitting people today. Right? It's literally just the first day that they're kind of getting into the building. My understanding is they start practice tomorrow. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that actually means. I don't know if they're going to be out on the field. I don't know if it'll just be like a private thing where they kind of keep it, internal. Maybe they're in the structure, but like the closed practice or at the indoor practice facility. From what I've heard, media is going to be there. So we'll see if we get like reports and videos and those things kind of coming out. The Raiders veterans report on the 22nd. The 23rd, these guys will be out there on the practice field. 100%. I'm just not sure how it's going to work before the veterans get here. Either way, very, very excited to hear about this. There was another report that came out, and I just want to kind of quickly talk about this because I think this is absolutely huge for the Raiders. If you guys did not hear this, TJ Watt basically got a new contract, which is something that he wanted. He got that earlier today. The guy ended up becoming now basically the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. Maxx Crosby, man, this guy's contract is so damn undervalued, and it's crazy because this is why you pay guys as early as possible. From the moment a guy wants to get a contract, you pay him, especially when they're, top tier player, one of the best players at their position. This is why you pay him. So, Maxx Crosby signed his contract literally just a couple months back, and he's already the fourth highest paid on an average value at the defensive end position. At $35.5 million is where Maxx Crosby is. Both Myles Garrett and TJ Watt signed contracts after Maxx Crosby. And on an average value, I mean, the difference between Maxx Crosby and TJ Watt is $5.5 million, right? To me, that's crazy, right? That's absolutely crazy to think. Because I don't think TJ Watt is that much better than Maxx Crosby. I don't even know if he's better, to be honest. I think they're very, very, very similar players. I think TJ Watt has a lot better of a defensive, group around him. So production-wise, he might have more stats. Maxx Crosby might actually be better. But regardless, it's not a difference of $5.5 million. And this is what happens when you sign a guy early. Myles Garrett, I'd argue, is the best defensive player in the entire NFL. Is he $4.5 million better than Maxx? It's debatable. But just the fact that the Raiders signed Maxx early, this guy's now, I believe, the fifth highest paid non-quarterback. And keep in mind, when he signed his contract, he was the highest paid non-quarterback. But TJ Watt got a contract. Myles Garrett got a contract. Jamar Chase got a contract. I think there was one or two other guys that also got contracts that made him actually essentially paid higher than Maxx. But it's just crazy to me to think that just paying guys early really does save you money in the long term, right? And, to me, Maxx Crosby, 27 years old, I think this guy's about to have the best year of his career this year. The guy's going to be fully healthy coming into this season. And I think the Raiders defense this year, although we are banged up and we do have some injuries, I think the Raiders defense is going to be okay. There's reports that Christian Wilkins already got his second surgery. I don't know how accurate that actually is, that he got that second surgery. If he did or didn't, at some point he will be playing for the Raiders this season. Throw in Christian Wilkins, throw in Maxx Crosby, throw in Adam Butler, a healthy Malcolm Koonce, right? Koonce, he had the ACL injury really, really early on in the process last year. So he should be 100%, ready to go by the time week one comes around, right? And we're still months away from that point. But he should be 100% ready to go when week one comes back around. That defensive line right there with those four guys is going to be really, really, really good. And we'll just see, when that time kind of comes. So obviously, there's some injuries. Guys got to kind of get past some injuries, right, with Wilkins and Koonce. But I really do think the Raiders defense is going to be better than what people expect. I know in the second and third levels of the defense, it's kind of all over the place. You look at the linebackers, right? You got Jermaine Pratt, who's a brand new linebacker to this team. You got Devin White, Jalen Smith, and Landon Roberts. All four guys are essentially new to this team. And we don't really know what Tommy Eichenberg is. He really hasn't proven himself. Amari Gaynor, although he made the roster, really didn't play last year for the Raiders. And then Cody Lindenberg's a rookie. You got four guys that are veterans. You got three guys that are kind of rookies. And the Raiders will probably pick, 4 or 5 out of those 7 guys to stick on the roster. And yes, it's kind of unknown, but I think that linebacking group is going to end up being a solid unit. I think Jermaine Pratt's a really, really good linebacker. And then we'll figure out one other guy, outside of Pratt. Even in the secondary, I think, Jacorian Bennett, from what I'm hearing, I think the guy's going to come right back and actually start for the Raiders. I do think he'll be past that shoulder injury. And, working with the number 2 unit, I think we may have talked a little bit too much about it. And it may not actually mean a whole lot when camp comes around. Something tells me Jacorian Bennett's going to be the number one corner. He'll be starting for the Raiders. But we'll see what ends up happening, man. We'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Obviously, phenomenal news with Jack Bech signing that contract. The Raiders are now looking forward to camp. Hopefully they can get Colton Miller taken care of as well as soon as possible. Maybe as soon as, the 22nd when the veterans get in. Maybe that's the day they take care of him as well. So we'll see what ends up happening. Let me know what you guys think. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.